Scott, thank you so much for being here with us today.
It's my
Welcome,
pleasure.
welcome.
Thank you.
Scott is currently the general manager and the vice president of the Academy of Vocal Arts in Philadelphia, but he has also run Palm Beach Opera as well as the Young Artist Program there. Am I correct about that?
Yep.
As well as worked at Washington National Opera for 7 seasons.
Well, overall, it was 11, but 7 is
11 seasons.
Yeah, but
Amazing.
11 is artistic administrator. I started there as an intern, actually,
Oh my gosh.
in education in 2002.
Amazing. So
Yeah,
you have been around the Young Artist programs pretty much your whole career.
absolutely.
And you have made it a point to champion young artists. And now, even more so at the Academy of Vocal Arts, we all know what a fantastic school that is and the incredible voices that have come out of that school. Angela Mead, Michael Fabiano. The list goes on and on and on and on and on. So thank you so much for all that you're giving to the young artists of the United States, really.
My pleasure.
It's
Oh,
amazing. And also you judge a lot of competitions as well. Scott and I actually met each other judging the Metropolitan Opera competition for the Michigan district. What was that? 3 seasons ago?
yeah, I think so.
Like that.
Yeah.
Something like that. It was such a great time. So I knew I had to have Scott on this class because he has all the knowledge that we want to have, right? So the first thing I wanted to talk about was sort of the path for the American young artist. We all sort of know that the ideal way that America sort of wants the young artist to go is undergraduate, graduate, young artist program, emerging professional, and heading into the business. Can you tell me what's so important about that YAP stage, about the young artist stage, where you're either in a year-long young artist program or a summer young artist program or a combination of those? What is so important about that phase in your development? What do we learn? And what are the tools that you think are most important about that particular phase of the path in America that the young artists really need to have when they enter the actual professional world of our business?
Yeah, that's a great place to start. So, for me, the important part about young artist programs is figuring out how to transition to become a professional singer, right? And how do you leave academia behind? How do you leave all of the stuff that comes with academia, right? The different studios and the silliness that happens between people there, and how do you become really a singer? How do you become a professional? And that's where there are various types of young artist programs. So it's just generalized for a little bit. I think the things that are most important about them, you're singing all the time, and I'm a big believer in that young singers actually don't sing enough.
Agree.
That you really have to, in order for the voice to grow and to be strong and to figure out what it is you do, you have to sing a lot. At AVA, the singers sing a lot. In Palm Beach, I always told the singers, you're going to sing more here than you probably ever have in your careers thus far. And you can do it because you're going to be expected to do it when you come out of young artist programs and go into a rehearsal room, and you will be expected to sing 6 hours a day. Because it makes artistic administrators very nervous when singers don't sing in rehearsal. It's one of my pet peeves. I understand, like, you're gonna have to mark, right? If you're singing some high flying stuff, you're not gonna sing a gajillion C's in a day. Get it, right? But after a while, you gotta sing also because you have to figure out how it gets into your body, right? How does the staging and the voice and everything go together? And when you leave those in the vacuum too long, it never comes together, right? And you're trying to put it together at the last minute. So I think that's important. I think it's time where watching a professional setting, actually watching a professional rehearsal run, how a conductor works, how a stage director works, how stage management works, how do you interact even with the dresser? You know, you finally get into it, you know, you're not in school anymore. This is professional dressers. They aren't your friends that are helping downstairs. I think all of these things are important parts of becoming a professional singer, right? And
Totally agree.
you know, at Palm Beach, you know, we had a very different kind of program. For those of you that know how Palm Beach Opera works, it's a very seasonal company now. Basically, the young artists were there from November 1 to the end of March, early April. And the main focus, actually, and when I got there, we only had eight young artists. And they were really doing everything. So they were in the chorus, they were covering major roles, they were singing the smaller roles, and doing all the education and outreach, and which was great. But what I realized is that after a while, that was too much. So if I'm asking a singer to go, and we're trying to train singers, professional singers, and to say to a singer, you have to be in a school at 7 o'clock and then be at rehearsal to 10 o'clock that night, just wasn't working.
No, that's a lot. That's a lot.
That's where and I said, and we couldn't keep up with the demand of the education department. So that's where I created a second tier with the apprentice artist program. And we sort of divided up the work so that the apprentices did a lot of the chorus work and all the education stuff. The young artists did mostly the small roles, covered the larger roles. Everybody though received the same training. So that was the caveat, is that yes, you were doing different things, but everybody had the same access to coachings and lessons and whatever we offered. So there wasn't tiered that way in terms of the training, it was just tiered in terms of the responsibility. So by the time I left, we had 18 singers there for 5 months.
Amazing. Amazing.
I think it was actually probably one of the bigger programs by the time I left, in those months, not the summer, you know, not the Glimmer Glass and the Santa Fe, those guys, but in our months, I think outside of Sarasota, we were probably the biggest one. So that's
it sounds like it.
That's sort of my thoughts on why I think this step is important. The tricky part of this step is that, let's just face it for a minute, there are more of you than there are young artist programs.
Yes.
Right? So that is, I get that, that's tricky. And I think there is a path forward even without, I'll say that. But,
of course.
But it's certainly, of course, there's an advantage to being in these programs. Long-winded.
I think it's
Cut me off,
that
Jennifer.
continuing, but the continuing education of it, right? It yes, takes you out of that school environment, which is so important, because in that school environment, we get so dependent on that teacher and what that teacher says. And can I do this or can I not? I have to ask my teacher. No, in the real world, it's your choice. And so providing that sort of transition out of that educational experience into a nurtured environment where you can ask questions and you can continue to have guidance from the coachings and from you and, you know, from any of the other administrators, but ultimately understand that your development is then in your hands. And how you work in the Young Artist Program then becomes your decision. Are you going to work like a professional, or are you going to work like a student and continue to, you know, stay in that sort of frame of mind? And I think that the step it's a huge one and it's important. And no, it doesn't have to happen. I mean, everyone who's been on some of the other classes knows I didn't do a major Young Artist Program until I was 27 years old. So when I left Indiana University, I went and worked in an office because I didn't get into any Young Artist Programs. I didn't get into AVA. It wasn't something that was an option for me until I figured out my voice. And then Opera Theater of St. Louis said, okay, now you're ready, come cover Violetta. That's right, Bonnie Joy. Everyone's journey is very, very different. But I do think that in the United States, and actually in Europe as well, that step of a Young Artist Program or multiple Young Artist Programs is quite important for you to learn how, like Scott said, to be a professional.
Right.
And it's hard to do if you transfer directly out of school and think, oh, I'm going to go get a manager and go into the business without that working knowledge of what the business actually is. So I love that information. Thank you so much for that. When you were and are casting your young artists,
Mm-hmm.
what are some of the things that really spark your interest when you hear an audition? What qualities are you looking for when you're sitting behind the table and saying, you know what, this girl could work really well in our program, and why? Can you talk a
Yeah.
little bit about that?
Yeah. So at Palm Beach, I was always very specific when we put out the post for young artists. So again, because they were covering leading roles and singing smaller roles, I was very specific in my audition notices. We're looking for a soprano that does X. We're doing
Yes.
for a mezzo. I mean, I know some of you may have seen our audition ads. I was always very clear because I had very specific things to cast. So that was part of how I approached at the first, in Palm Beach. I also, we were busy. It was basically a small festival, right? And so it boom, 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 boom. And we did a lot of coaching. We did a lot of things, but I really needed voices that were really well put together. I didn't have the resources nor the time to sort of fix, right? Those are the year-long programs are where you can take a voice that really needs a lot of work and nurturing. We needed people who were ready to sing.
We're ready.
And frankly, cover major roles. And by cover, I meant you might have to go on.
You go. Yeah, exactly.
Because in Florida, West Palm Beach, it's not like being when I was here in DC, where it's a 2-hour train ride down from Philly or whatever. If you didn't know by noon that you needed a replacement, you were in big trouble at 6 o'clock.
Yeah.
Called. So they had to be really ready to go. So that's sort of when I cast. Now, when I listen to auditions, so that was sort of a big criteria for me. Listening to auditions, is the basic instrument in really good shape? Is it technically solid? Is it well produced? Of course, I always say that this is a completely subjective business, right? And we all have to be okay with that. So I have a personal taste. There are voices that I like that my colleagues don't like. There are voices they like, I don't like. And that doesn't mean that it's bad. It's just we have different tastes, or else we'd all be one opera company like Diet Coke, and be it. It would be really boring. So I always say, you have to be okay with that. And just because I didn't hire you doesn't mean you're a bad singer. It's just, I may have been looking for something else, or I have a particular, in my head, a Mimi sounds like this. And that's okay, right? And that's just sort of my taste. And when auditioning is so hard, and I get it. And I think everybody's gonna shake their head. And this is the first time I'm ever doing an audition. The process sucks, right? So let's just be honest. Like it's just horrible. So people that are confident, people that know who they are as a singer, I think that's the hardest thing for you all. Is the business puts a lot of, like, you have to have this aria and a German and a French and a da-da. And some people that just doesn't work for. Like,
yes.
And so again, when you're coming out of school, you check all those boxes, right? You have to check, you have your French aria, you have your German aria, you have your Italian aria, great. But after then you have to become your singer, right? So, and you have to figure out what you sing, and you have to say, you know what? I don't really like singing German repertoire. It doesn't fit my voice.
Yes.
It's not what I do. And so you start sort of narrowing in and stop checking the boxes all the time. So I think that's
so happy that you brought that up. I'm so happy that you brought that up, because that's literally my follow-up question to this, is the 5 aria contrasting package.
Yeah.
Right? How does it change for you when you're listening to a young artist? We asked this question of David Lomeli as well on our second class, and we said, what is that 5 contrasting aria package? how, you know, in school they teach us it's a Baroque, a Mozart, a Italian, a French, a German, a blah, blah. But that's not everybody,
No,
right?
it's
And
not.
when I go to an audition, I'm telling you what, I've got 4 Italian arias and a French just because the French is bel canto and I like to sing in French. Uh, But I'm going with like 2 Verdis, a bel canto, and like a Puccini, right? But that's what I do.
That's
So
you,
when
right?
you're looking at a young artist, do you want to see that kind of list? You want to see those 5 contrasting arias? Is that kind
So,
of the
I think the list
general?
change. I mean, I always have this caveat when I'm is that you have to do whatever that particular person is asking you to audition with, right? So,
Right, of course.
right, if the requirements are this, or St. Louis wants something in English because you're going to sing in
Right,
English.
because they do everything in English. Yes,
So that
exactly.
makes sense. So for me, what I want to see on a list are things that show off your voice, right? I want to hear you actually, what you sound good at, what you sing. I want to hear the voice. So for me, I don't care if it's 2 Italian things. If it's one of them shows that the voice can move, one of them shows that you actually have a top. It's like, oh, when I look at a list sometimes for a soprano, I'm like, so that whole list, the highest thing here goes to G. So it's like,
Right, where's
what,
the high C?
what's up?
Yes.
You need to have something that might show that, where's your C, or I'm going to ask for it. Those, how low does the voice go? How, same thing, you can go all down the fox. But so for me, I just wanted things that show your voice off. There's a lot of pieces, and we want to get into them, that I don't think are great audition pieces, because I want to hear what the voice does, right? And so sometimes, yes, I want you to say something, and that's really important too, right? And something that you connect with, something that you like to sing. I can always tell when a singer is singing something that they actually enjoy singing. Because it's just different, right? And you're like, oh, I'm not shoved in this box, and I hate this German aria, but I've got to sing it, and it's terrible. I hate Pamina. I don't like her as a character, now I have to sing her. It's like, no, that's silly. Don't do that.
Doesn't work. Never works. Never works.
So that's sort of my thoughts on sort of this list. And I think this list will change, right? And it has to keep changing, and things are going to come onto it. Things are going to come off. I will say, never put something on there that you aren't ready to sing. I can't tell you how many times in audition where I pick something and the look on a singer's face is like, oh my God, why should I do that? And I was like, it's on your list.
It's on your list, so you have to sing it. Yeah.
This is also, to talk briefly, I always call it sort of audition roulette. Don't try to play audition roulette, right? So you're trying to do my job for me. So you cannot say, oh, if I sing Puccini, then he'll ask for Mozart. Or you can't do it. It doesn't work. Don't do my job for me. You don't know what I'm hearing. You don't know why I'm hearing it. Sometimes after the first aria, I like the voice so much, I just want to hear something that it's like, I made my decision. So it's like, great. I want to just hear it. So don't put things on there that you've coached well, they're in your voice. I can't tell you the number of times where somebody will say, oh, this is the first time I've ever sung this in audition. It's like, no, there is always going to be that first time, but it's always like, but maybe sing it a few more times, get it in your voice. Like, oh, I just had this last week, just learned it. It's like, whoa.
Sing it in front of your peers first. Take it to, do a little like friends repertoire night in your apartment and sing it in front of your girlfriends first, and then take it to the audition. Awesome. I love that. Thank you. Thank you so much. So let's move into what you're thinking about, what our fall season is going to look like as far as young artist programs and auditioning is concerned. We pretty much know that everything in our business is pretty much canceled until January, right? So the possibility for the summer young artist programs to happen next season is pretty high, which is great. And let's keep that positive energy going, right? But that also means that the auditions in the fall probably aren't going to happen the way we are used to them happening, right? Probably they are going to happen in a virtual way. Probably you are going to have to record video. Probably you are going to have to put together a virtual package that you send, and that looks professional and polished and fantastic. So can you talk a little bit about what the creative things going on behind the scenes are to actually make some sort of auditions happen for young artists in the fall, and what you think those auditions are going to look like?
Yeah, so I mean, I'll start by saying this is just a crazy time. I mean, this is just nuts, right? And I was talking to Jen, and I said, you know, I'm talking with a donor here, and she used a really great analogy, which I think is good. Is that on March whatever, for 13th for some of us, 16, 17, middle of March, we were all zooming down the highway, and we got totally detoured onto this wonky bridge, right? We're on this weird bridge now. We got on it. We don't know when it will end. It dips and turns and does all these things, but there will be an end, right? We are going to get over this. And when we get through it, there will still be opera. I guarantee you there still will be opera. I was running a company when 2008, 2009 happened, and everybody thought the arts were going to be dead, and there's not. Because in the end, this forum is not going to replace going to the theater. It's not going to replace the ballet. It's not going to replace going to the musical theater. It's not going to replace going to a baseball game, right? So let's be honest. Like, we're going to get through this, and something's going to happen, and we're going to be fine. Now, what this fall is going to look like is it's going to be very different. And I think we're all grappling as administrators, and you should know, I mean, my colleagues and I talked with a lot of people, general directors, artistic administrators, and everybody's trying to figure out how to do this, right? There's no playbook. There's no pandemic playbook for opera. It's like we're all just making this up and trying to figure it out. So it's, first of all, I mean, yes, it's all going to be virtual. You're not going to, I don't think there will be a live audition taking place. So that's going to pose some interesting problems, challenging. So you're going to have to, again, hone in on your rep list. You're going to have to make sure that you're presenting the things that you sing well and that show off your, again, I say show off your voice because it's going to become even more, if you only get to submit 2 things, you have to make sure that they're really things that show off your voice.
Yes, absolutely.
You know, everybody's access to technology is going to be very different. There's a big talk in Upper America about how we sort of level the playing field with that, so that we don't judge based on somebody's technological capability. That we have to really just try to figure out what that voice is. But to that said, you know, there are some really good microphones out there that aren't that expensive. Even that will help a ton versus recording just on your iPhone. Because the iPhone is going to, by nature, the way they work, collapses the sound, it compresses the sound. So especially you high voices or big voices, forget it. Like, it just doesn't work. So again, make sure all of your material, now is the time to make sure your materials are really spiffy. Make sure your resumes are really in great shape, that there's no chance for spelling errors, that there's, you know, that you send them the right way, that they're you know, put together, all these things. I just think it's important that you, because it's all happening virtually, you have to show yourself as a singer in a very different way. But still, you have to figure out how to express. You have to show us something, right? And you have to, so it's going to be even harder to make these videos because you're singing into the abyss. You're just singing into a camera. But you have to find that way that you connect with what you're singing so that we actually see who you are. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. 100%. Absolutely.
I
And
say at AVA,
yeah,
something we're doing to help our singers is we're actually going to record all of everybody's audition packages. So that's will be the
wonderful.
project of the school, is to actually bring in people to record, and everybody will have 6 or 7 arias sort of in the can to use this year. Now,
Fabulous.
I know that everybody can't do that, but you know, this is a time to talk with your friends. You might have somebody that has a really great camera. You have, you know, good microphone. Find a good
That's
space.
right.
Be cognizant of the space you're singing in. You know, it might sound great to sing in a real vibrant, reverberant, you know, sort of dining room, but it's actually sometimes can distort the sound when you record.
Yes.
Sometimes even better to sing in a deader space. So
Yes.
test a few things out. Find a friend that you know, that you trust, or somebody you trust to send a recording to first. What do you think about this? How's the sound? How's, you know, the lighting? These things. Just take the time now to start working through some of those things, because the deadlines are going to come fast.
They're going to come. They're going to come really fast. You're absolutely right. And I think that's a really great point that you make, Scott. If you have a group of friends, maybe you're still in school and there are 5 of you that know you're going to submit auditions. Why don't all 5 of you go in on the Shure M88 Plus mic? I think it's $250. If you all pay $25, that's a pretty cheap mic. And then maybe you donate it to the school or something when you're finished with it. Or maybe we use one person's iPad and it all comes together. Maybe you all pay for a pianist to help you record 2 arias with a live pianist wearing a mask. That works just fine. Then you're not singing with the track, and the track is hard. Let's face it. The track is hard, and all of you singing today who are singing with the track, we love you, we applaud you, we don't care if you're not with the track. Doesn't matter to us, right? But I know as a singer, I know that you get in your head and you say, oh God, I wasn't with the track, I wasn't this, I know. But maybe it's better if you and a couple of your friends split the pianist's fee, go into a room in somebody's house who has a piano or a keyboard, all have your masks on or whatever, and you all give that pianist a fee to record several arias. Then you actually have people in the room that you can sing to as well. You feel maybe a little bit more connected to the text, things like that, and perform for each other while someone's making the recording, and give that pianist a fee, because we all know the pianists are out of work right now too. So, you know, if you can give that pianist a fee, that's awesome. I think, you know, as Scott said, the institutions and the programs, everybody has to be creative right now.
Right.
And that also means that the singers have to be creative as well, which is what we're doing with these fabulous masterclasses. We are trying to be creative. So it's a big thing. You're going to have to be creative. You're going to have to come up with a way. And yes, money is tight, and that's fine. Get a couple of people together, everybody go in on a mic or something like that, and make it work. Don't not submit because you didn't feel you had the money to put together a good audition. In that case, keep it on your phone. We can hear the sound of the voice. You know, if you really feel like you're ready and you want to submit, don't not do it because you couldn't afford the big room at Opera America with the technology and the this and the that and the whatever. Don't not do it because of that. You know, stand in your living room with your track on your iPad and do it that way. That's what you have to do.
But there's enough technology out there that I think is reasonable in price that
agree.
If you do pull together, and you know, be realistic when you record. Don't try to, you know, smash through the 5 arias in 20 minutes. You know, you've got time right now, so you know, make sure it's fresh every time you sing. You have the luxury of, you know, having a little bit of time. So I would say, you know, it's important to, you know, record 2 in a day. Listen to them, put them down for a little bit, listen to them, come back to them and say, okay, yeah, that one's good. And you have to be honest. I mean, that's the other part, is that the self-honesty is going to become very important.
Yes, absolutely. Or send them to a friend and say, hey, what do you think about this? And have them give you, you know, someone you trust, or a coach, or your pianist.
going to be honest with you. Not
Yes,
somebody's
someone that's going to be honest.
Not somebody's going to tell you you're great. Somebody's going to tell you, this is flat, this is out of tune, this is they have to be brutally honest.
Yes.
And help. I mean, in a helpful way. I'm not saying smash your spirits, but I'm saying,
Yes, absolutely.